It's great to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you.
You just set up on the stage. How was it?
It was awesome. It was, we knocked out a bunch of songs right before the sun came, like blasting down on everybody. So I think we dodged the. It was actually pleasant outside,
Okay.
an otherwise hot day. Great crowd. Yeah, it's great.
It must be incredible to be able to tour around the world and just have people show up and see you guys.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's still bizarre. It's cool. It never gets old. It never gets old. Some countries or some cities you're surprised. You do way better than you thought in a part of the world you've never been to. You sell out an arena like that.
Yeah.
And then other parts of the world where, like, there'll be other cities where you thought more people would show up and less people show up. So it's always kind of evens itself out, but it's cool. We get to see, we get to experience all these places that people save up their lives to go travel on vacation. We get to dot around and spend time in these places regularly. So it's cool. You kind of feel a little bit more like a citizen of the world as opposed to one city.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
One of my favorite authors is Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote a book called Outliers.
I've read all his books.
You've read all his books, yeah. I'm interested in that story of success, and what I find about the music industry and acting to a lesser degree is every success story you've ever heard is the opposite of the last one you just heard. You guys have had tremendous success at this point. Are you looking back now and asking yourself, like, how did this all happen?
I think I think that there's a lot of people that are born that are probably more talented than me, or guys in our in my band, but I think that ultimately it's who does the work. I think that the thing that I've noticed is the huge delineator between wildly talented people and wildly successful people is the people who have the work ethic to back up the talent.
Yeah.
So ultimately, all things being equal, I don't know that I imagined we'd be here like 10 years later and be doing arenas and huge outdoor venues around the world. Like, it's still kind of surreal. But then I think about the last 10 years of us going nonstop. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm exhausted right now. I slept 5 hours last night, and I slept 5 the night before, and I'm really tired. And now I'm on television. So,
here we are.
Yeah, here we are. It's definitely not dark in this room.
It is not.
Yeah.
It is not.
Yeah.
There's melatonin actually in every single one of the.
I was going to say, this is like anti-seasonal affective disorder.
That's right.
Lights.
That's right.
Yeah,
Sometimes in the winter I just sleep under these lights
that
and
makes
I
sense.
feel better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you guys have had a tremendous amount of success, and you've done it in a very unconventional way, in the sense that you have your own songs. You've collaborated with a tremendous amount of people as well, and it's a very unconventional path to success.
Well, I think it's slow. A lot of artists, most of the artists that I know, most of them, explode quickly.
Yes.
And, a lot of them are handed songs from outside sources.
Sometimes you're handing them those songs.
Sometimes I'm lucky enough to hand them. So ours has been the most, I would say, the most textbook case of slow and steady tortoise, the tortoise, not the hare. I mean, this band we are the tortoise. It's been 10 years of one step at a time.
You prefer it that way?
Yeah, because I think it's more sustainable. I think it's longer lasting. You appreciate every turn, every new place, every new city. And we've never had that, tiger beat, teen beat, like pop star moment.
Right.
It's just not something that
you haven't had your spiky hair moment with the cutoff shirt, and then 4 years later you're like, what happened?
It's not a suit that fits. You know what I mean?
Right.
I had this conversation with Brandon Flowers from the Killers, recently, and he was saying, we were talking about the Killers' success, their first album just being the biggest thing ever. Right?
Love that album.
And he was, everybody loves it, Hot Fuss, and he's saying, I wouldn't take that back for anything, but I kind of wish it was the third album that did that, or that it was.
And they were young too.
Yeah, further on down the line, so it was more of a progression. He's like, it's weird to have it happen at the beginning.
He strikes me as the kind of guy who he's probably one of the more underrated songwriters right now.
Yeah.
But he also, he was not ready for stardom when that album hit, I don't think, at all. He was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he's grown into it, but it was not a good fit at first.
Have you interviewed him before?
I have.
Okay,
he was incredibly awkward. He's a great guy. He's very
amazing.
Talented. He's grown into it now.
Yeah, he's amazing. I think he's one of the biggest rock stars, definitive rock stars I've ever been in a room with. He just kind of exudes it. But yeah, I think that he's so humble, and from where he's from in Vegas and his family and his religion and just everything that he's raised in is contrary to the position that he's in.
And also sometimes I think humility can be interpreted as arrogance, and
it can.
I think that's what happened with him.
Yeah, because he's actually super humble.
Yeah,
like he's like very humble and kind of like, you know, yeah, almost like, oh, you like me, you know, like
right.
He's very honest about it, and I think he's one of the most underrated. I think people that love him. I think he's one of the most talented and enigmatic rock stars in the world. I love the Killers and I hope that their album is huge.
My wife and I have already decided that will be we're having a baby in October, and it'll be our first in January when they come. It's gonna be our first time we're gonna leave the house. We've already got our tickets, so we're excited.
Amazing.
About that.
All right, that's a good choice.
Speaking of rock stars and superstardom, Camila Cabello is somebody that you are working with.
Yep.
She was here for the Much Music Video Awards.
Yeah.
She has it. Whatever that it is, you can debate the merits of it. She has it.
Yeah, for sure she does. Yeah. She's super. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Je ne sais quoi. You know, whatever it is.
Is it? Obviously, she's incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
She's very humble, very nice,
Yes.
but obviously incredibly talented as well. What strikes you when you work with somebody like that right away?
The thing that strikes me about Camila, she is. Camila is incredibly confident. It betrays her age.
Yeah.
The thing, and this is the thing that you can learn as you get older to be more comfortable with cameras and and just more confident. But when you meet an artist who's 20 and exudes that kind of confidence, it is a gifted thing. And she's super humble, super grounded, knows exactly who she is. When you write with her, I've written, actually, a guy named Frank Dukes, a producer out of Toronto, we just did a song for her album. And her in the studio, she goes from 0 to like, I've known you my whole life in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And that is, I don't know where you learn that, but it makes everybody.
I never learned it.
It makes me neither. I'm a little more standoffish. It makes everybody feel comfortable around her.
And it makes you instantly likable,
you
too.
instantly like her. You like her. You talk to her for 5 seconds, and you're like, oh my God, she leaves an impression. That's the thing. And she's super talented. She knows who she is. She's crazy young. She has a huge, long. Yeah. She plays the long game, which
I think
should.
she'll be one of the greats, actually.
She needs to play the long game, and she'll win.
Yeah. The best way I've heard fame described is it's ordinary people in just like ridiculous situations.
Extraordinary circumstances.
Very extraordinary circumstances. One of those extraordinary circumstances for you had to have been that GMA performance that you did with Chris Cornell's daughter.
With Tony Cornell.
That had to have been incredibly surreal.
That was surreal. It was nerve-wracking. It's one of the I don't really get nervous anymore.
Yeah.
And I was incredibly nervous simply because I had barely slept. We had a show that night in Boston. She and I, the day before was my kid's birthday and family reunion in Connecticut. So I the whole day was talking with family. I hadn't seen in 4 years. My voice was shot, and we're covering Leonard Cohen's version of Hallelujah.
Yeah.
She and I didn't get to rehearse until right before, literally, they were like, and go.
Right.
So we did 2 run-throughs in a trailer, and they're like, guys, we need you now. We need you now.
Right.
And then there's a lot of lyrics in that song. And then halfway through the song, nobody noticed on TV, but the teleprompter died.
Great.
So we have no reference for lyrics. And it was just like... And it's
like your worst nightmare.
My worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's like you can physically see me sweating beads.
Well, and just for people who don't understand, like that happening to you in the best case scenario is a nightmare.
Yeah.
But then when you've got this emotionally sensitive topic on top of it,
it's like, and we're dedicating this to Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, and his daughter's 12 years old. I don't know if they said that on camera, but because she looks way older than that, but she's 12, and she gets up and she's singing a song to her father, who obviously is no longer with us anymore. I just wanted to do right by her.
Yeah.
I was more nervous for her, honestly, than anything else. And, and then, the emotional context of that performance was not lost on me. I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was really hard to keep our wits about us during that song.
But I imagine when you look back on your career, whenever you look back on it, that will probably be one of those moments.
That will be one of those moments. Yeah, there's a handful of moments that you go, I'm going to remember this.
Yeah.
I'll remember this for a long time. That's one of them.
It was probably one of those moments where in the moment you were like, oh, this is one of those things.
Well, the older you get, you start to realize when those moments happen. Obviously, the birth of a child, and and then sometimes it's random. Sometimes you could be sitting at an Italian restaurant in Zurich,
Right.
and you kind of look around and you realize, oh my God, I'm gonna remember this forever. Like
Right.
you just have a moment.
I imagine that recently happened to you, because that's a very specific
well, no,
example.
not necessarily in Zurich, but yeah,
Right.
like I had a random. I mean, this has nothing to do with food, but I went skateboarding at like 1 a.m. in front of the White House a few weeks ago.
Awesome.
And it was DC was really a ghost town, and I skated from my bus to the hotel in Georgetown in front of the White House for like 20 minutes, just skating with Secret Service just kind of watching.
Yeah, they
us
love
go around.
loiterers in the middle of the night in front of the White
If you
House.
could just loiter and hang here for a minute while we talk. But
Right.
the Secret Service agents were talking about overtime. Like, no, she's like, well, Sandra didn't show up till 5 p.m. I mean, she came in 2 hours late. I mean, I was overhearing their conversations about their actual work.
Talk about regular people in extraordinary
Regular people.
circumstances.
I'm like, you guys are the 2 people in front of the entrance of the White House and skated the Lincoln Memorial. And it was kind of one of those nights where I was like, wow, I just skated to every major monument in D.C. and it's a ghost town.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I got stopped by the presidential motorcade, which is kind of funny too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Pretty surreal.
Pretty annoying.
Not bad.
Pretty
Fair
annoying.
enough. Fair enough.
Pretty annoying. 50 cars.
Let's talk about the launch. A lot
Yeah.
of people are very excited about it. You may not know this, but you and I are now technically coworkers, which is very exciting.
Okay. Are you?
No, I'm not affiliated at all.